Have you ever found yourself caught in a loop of disappointment, convinced that everyone around you eventually betrays your trust? Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This perspective challenges the idea that betrayal is always an external act done to us. Instead, Jung's insight suggests that our own unacknowledged inner dynamics can set the stage for recurring patterns. Today, we're going to dive deep into the notion that the cycle of betrayal might be linked to a disconnection from our true self. Can truly embracing the self and all the hidden pieces within finally end these hurtful repetitions? Before we begin, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future explorations into the human psyche. Now let's explore this idea further, because sometimes what we see as an unavoidable heartbreak could actually be our psyche's subtle way of urging us toward greater self-awareness. We often think of betrayal in purely external terms. Someone lies to us, breaks our trust, or acts in a way that feels like a direct violation of our bond. We may also believe that loyalty and faithfulness should be straightforward, that if we give enough love and honesty, we'll receive it in return. Yet Jung's approach to psychology nudges us to look beneath the surface. There may be unconscious motivations, past traumas, and unacknowledged desires fueling our reactions. Perhaps we're unconsciously drawn to circumstances or relationships in which betrayal becomes likely, as if we're unconsciously scripting the same tragedy again and again. This script can repeat in romantic relationships, friendships, or even at work, leading us to wonder, why does this always happen to me? The power of Jung's notion of the self is that it unites all aspects of our being, both the known and the unknown. Could it be that our repeated betrayals are a signal that important facets of our personality remain unintegrated? By taking a closer look at these hidden dynamics, we may discover that the key to ending betrayal lies not in controlling external events, but in better understanding and embracing our inner world. Let's analyze this dilemma step by step. First, Jung's concept of the self is crucial. When Jung spoke of the self, he referred to a central, organizing archetype of the psyche that encompasses our total potential, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow. In everyday language, you might think of it as the whole you that you can become, as opposed to just the smaller sense of I that we call the ego. The ego is the part of us that handles day-to-day functioning, the roles we fulfill, the tasks we perform, and the identity we publicly present. But the self is more expansive. It holds not only our conscious choices, but also our repressed memories, our unlived potential, and our disowned traits. Betrayal often happens when there's an inner split. Maybe the person we appear to be on the outside doesn't match the deeper truths we hold within. Sometimes we unconsciously project these unacknowledged qualities onto others, which can lead to intense conflicts and disappointments. Think of a friend who consistently dates people they suspect will cheat on them. Over time, they find it confirmed again and again. Unfaithful partners. On a surface level, this friend might blame bad luck or the cruelty of others. Yet Jung would encourage us to ask, is there an inner complex or unacknowledged fear fueling these repeated experiences? Perhaps deep down, that person anticipates betrayal because an earlier event, such as a parental figure's inconsistency or a past heartbreak, left them with an unresolved wound. This wound could be shaping their expectations, steering them into familiar but painful territory. In a paradoxical way, the psyche often prefers the certainty of repeating old traumas over the uncertain terrain of growth. Until that hidden hurt is acknowledged and integrated into the self, the pattern might persist. Second, let's introduce two more supporting concepts from Jungian and broader psychological thought: projection and complexes. Projection is when we attribute our inner qualities, especially the ones we're uncomfortable owning, to others. If we deny our own capacity for betrayal, distrust, or secrecy, we might see these traits in everyone else, sometimes unfairly. Complexes, on the other hand, are emotional clusters bound together by a common theme in our unconscious. For instance, a betrayal complex could form if betrayal played a significant role during formative years. It might get triggered every time we experience a hint of disloyalty. We become hypervigilant, reading every slight as the seeds of another letdown. Recognizing when we project and understanding the complexes that shape our behavior can be an important step toward healing. One aha moment often arises when we see how our own discomfort with certain traits, like the fear of being dishonest ourselves, can make us hypersensitive to dishonesty in others. By analyzing and owning these traits, we reduce the power they have to dictate our interactions. Third, the cycle of betrayal often extends beyond romantic or personal relationships. Consider the coworker who constantly changes jobs because they feel stabbed in the back by supervisors or colleagues. Or the entrepreneur who partners with people who eventually leave them in precarious situations. Repeated patterns suggest a deeper dynamic, not just bad luck. One real-world example might be a person we'll call Alicia, who has been through 5 different businesses in as many years. Each time she says her partners betrayed her by leaving or taking more than their share. Looking at Alicia's history more closely, however, reveals that she often chooses partners impulsively, ignoring red flags. Perhaps something inside Alicia is drawn to the excitement of risk or the validation of being saved by new collaborators. Yet at the same time, she fears being taken advantage of. This contradictory push and pull might reflect an unresolved complex about trust. An essential question Alicia might ask herself is, am I setting myself up to be betrayed because I haven't integrated my own anxieties about exploitation, control, or losing independence? To break such cycles, Jung would have recommended a path of self-analysis, dream work, and active imagination. While not everyone will visit a Jungian analyst, we can still take practical steps at home. The first application is mindful reflection. Journaling daily about moments where we feel wounded or slighted can illuminate patterns. Are we noticing similar triggers? Do our fears of betrayal emerge in certain scenarios or with certain types of people? The second application is a shadow check. Once a week, list qualities you find most frustrating in others. Then honestly ask if any part of you might exhibit those same traits in subtle ways. This exercise can be an aha moment when you realize that, for instance, your frustration with someone else's secrecy might mirror your own tendency to withhold. Seeing these connections is not about blaming yourself for others' actions, but about becoming conscious of how your own interior world might be shaping external events. There's a powerful metaphor that can help illustrate the importance of integration. Imagine you're spinning a wheel that represents your life. Each segment of the wheel is one of your traits: trust, insecurity, compassion, resentment, resilience, fear, and so on. When the wheel is balanced, each segment is acknowledged, and the ride forward is relatively smooth. But if one segment, say unresolved fear, bulges outward because it's been neglected or pushed into the shadows, it will distort the wheel's shape, making for a bumpy, unpredictable journey. In that uneven ride, certain experiences like betrayal might recur. The solution isn't to replace the wheel or blame the path ahead, but to bring the oversized segment back into balance. The more we integrate all our inner traits, the smoother our forward motion becomes. It might sound daunting to confront these hidden aspects of ourselves, but the experience can be truly liberating. One reason is that as we acknowledge our fears and insecurities, we become more compassionate and discerning in relationships. Another reason is that we start to pick partners, friends, and collaborators who resonate with our emerging sense of wholeness. Think of it like upgrading your inner software. You attract or consciously seek out situations better aligned with your integrated self. Here's a reflection point. When was the last time I felt betrayed? And what aspect of my own feelings or behaviors might have contributed to that situation? Even posing that question can encourage a shift from viewing betrayal exclusively as an external force to understanding it as part of a dynamic interplay between self and other. Now, if you're finding value in this exploration, consider supporting this channel by liking this video or sharing your insights in the comments. Each voice adds depth to our collective understanding of these powerful themes, and your engagement ensures that more seekers can discover Jung's transformative ideas. It's amazing how quickly an honest conversation about our hidden dynamics can start to lift the veil that covers our repeating disappointments. Betrayal, after all, can be a profoundly isolating feeling. Yet ironically, it often arises because we're afraid to show our authentic selves, or we sense that others might reject our deeper truth. By shedding light on these hidden corners, we begin to see betrayal less as inevitable doom and more as a wake-up call. As we continue analyzing, it's important to recognize that embracing the self doesn't guarantee a life free from conflict. Others may still let us down, or we may discover previously unknown insecurities within ourselves. The difference is that an integrated approach provides us with new responses. Instead of reeling into despair, we can interpret the situation more objectively, noticing if a particular complex has been activated or if a shadow element has surfaced. Take the example of Ben, a middle-aged manager who struggled with authority issues. Because he never reconciled his resentment toward a critical parent, he found himself feeling betrayed by every boss who gave him constructive feedback. Through self-reflection, he saw his pattern. That deep feeling of betrayal was actually an echo of childhood, not an accurate reading of present circumstances. By acknowledging this dynamic, Ben could respond to his supervisors with measured calm rather than rage or sulking, thus improving his professional life. That moment of realization, aha, this is about my past, not my present boss, can shift your entire emotional climate. Alongside projection and complexes, we can weave in one more supporting idea: boundary clarity. Sometimes betrayal arises because we haven't established clear boundaries in our relationships. If we're operating from the ego alone, eager to please, terrified of conflict, or anxious about being rejected, we might overextend ourselves or promise things we can't truly deliver. Then when people inevitably fail to meet our unspoken expectations, or when we can't follow through, we feel betrayed or might even betray them. Ensuring that we communicate our needs, limits, and genuine capabilities is a practical way to reduce the possibility of misunderstanding and hidden resentment. This boundary work is deeply related to embracing the self, because knowing who we really are includes recognizing what we can and cannot handle in relationships. Another metaphor that might resonate is that of a mirror. Imagine your unconscious as a mirror that's slightly covered with dust. Whenever we encounter betrayal, the dust is shaken a bit, revealing more of our reflection. At first, we might resent the mirror for showing us things we'd rather not see. But as we gently clean away the dust, we see ourselves more clearly. If the mirror is so covered that we can't distinguish our reflection, we're left confused and in the dark, blaming external events for our pain. However, if we keep polishing that mirror through self-inquiry, therapy, or honest introspection, we start to see the patterns, the illusions, and the hidden pieces of ourselves that have been playing out in the outside world. The clearer the mirror, the less we're at the mercy of unconscious patterns. This is what Jung meant by becoming conscious of what was previously unconscious. It stops directing your life from behind the scenes. So how can we apply these insights in everyday life? One practical exercise is a betrayal autopsy. If you've recently felt betrayed, write down the entire sequence of events in detail. Describe not only what happened externally, but also how you felt at each step. Pay particular attention to any shift in your emotions: anger, fear, suspicion. Ask yourself, have I ever felt a similar emotional shift in a different context, perhaps much earlier in life? This can reveal a thread connecting present and past experiences. A second practical application is what some therapists call proactive authenticity. That means before diving into a new relationship or commitment, you take the time to clarify your values, desires, and boundaries. This clarity discourages self-betrayal, which is sometimes overlooked when we talk about betrayal cycles. Often we betray ourselves first by agreeing to situations that don't resonate with who we are, which then sets the stage for others to inadvertently betray us as well. One additional real-world example might be a woman named Sophia, who always felt betrayed when her friends made social plans without her. Upon deeper reflection, Sophia realized she rarely voiced her desire to be included. She was afraid that asking directly would come across as needy, so she remained silent, hoping her friends would just know she wanted to join. When they didn't pick up on her unspoken wishes, she felt betrayed and excluded. In analyzing this pattern, Sophia discovered a deeper fear of rejection from childhood. She was once humiliated for expressing her desires. That old imprint shaped her adult friendships. By acknowledging this, Sophia could start stating her wishes openly, reducing the likelihood of feeling overlooked and learning, in turn, that her real friends welcomed her honesty. If you're noticing a recurring theme in your life, like the same kind of friendship fallouts or romantic disappointments, reflect on whether there's an underlying story you keep replaying. Could it be related to a parent's abandonment, childhood bullying, or some past experience that left you feeling unsafe? Jung believed these layers form the bedrock of our psyche, and only by facing them can we prevent them from quietly dictating our fate. It's not always easy to see these hidden connections, but each time we do, we reclaim a piece of ourselves. That's the essence of embracing the self. The more pieces of our psyche we integrate, the less likely we are to remain trapped in repetitive cycles of betrayal or heartbreak. Now let's draw these threads together. The big insight here is that betrayal doesn't happen in a vacuum. While we can't always control what others do, we can control how we respond, what patterns we engage in, and how honest we are with ourselves. When we adopt Jung's view that the self comprises everything within us, positive and negative, conscious and unconscious, we start to see that betrayal itself can be a teacher, pointing to where we feel most wounded or disempowered. Recognizing our projections, investigating our complexes, and setting healthy boundaries can go a long way toward ending destructive cycles. It's about strengthening our relationship with who we really are, rather than who we think we must be to gain approval or avoid conflict. Before we conclude, take a moment to ask yourself, what aspect of me have I been betraying by denying or hiding it? There might be a hidden talent you've suppressed out of fear, a strong emotion you've dismissed as trivial, or a part of your personality that feels unlovable. Embracing yourself can begin with acknowledging these overlooked pieces. When we take responsibility for our own wholeness, betrayal loses much of its power to devastate us because we're no longer secretly betraying ourselves. That brings us to our final reflections. First, consider that betrayal, in a strange way, can illuminate exactly where we need to grow. Each time we confront disappointment, we have a choice: remain stuck in resentment or use the experience as a clue to deeper integration. Second, recognize that true self-embrace doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process of becoming aware of who you are, strengths, flaws, and everything in between, and holding space for all those dimensions without judgment. Lastly, realize that the journey to the self can be lonely at moments, but it also opens the door to more genuine connections and more consistent experiences of trust. In practical terms, this might mean seeking professional help, like speaking with a counselor or therapist trained in depth psychology, especially if you find that past betrayals have formed a deep emotional scar. It might also involve simple daily practices, mindful meditation, journaling, or having honest conversations with trusted friends. The key is to stay curious about your own inner world. By doing so, you align your life circumstances with the conscious intention to grow and heal. Thank you for sharing in this journey of exploration. Embracing the self can feel like stepping into unknown territory, but it's ultimately the most faithful thing you can do for your own well-being. If you found value in this discussion, please leave a comment about your own aha moments or any discoveries you've made in past betrayals. Your experiences might resonate with someone who needs exactly that spark of insight. Also, feel free to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Our community thrives on open dialogue, so your participation truly matters. To wrap up, here's a brief recap. We explored Jung's idea of the self as the totality of conscious and unconscious forces that shape our identity. We recognized how betrayal can be a recurring pattern when we have unresolved complexes or hidden fears. We applied concepts like projection to see how we might assign our disowned qualities to others, ultimately contributing to the cycle of betrayal. We also looked at real-world examples, romantic relationships, workplaces, friendships, and considered ways to break free by reflecting on our deeper motivations. Most importantly, we learned that genuine wholeness requires courage, vulnerability, and a commitment to owning all parts of ourselves. That is the promise of ending the cycle of betrayal through self-embrace. The more conscious you become, the more you direct your life, rather than letting unconscious wounds steer your fate. May this perspective empower you to transform any past betrayals into stepping stones toward greater self-knowledge, authenticity, and ultimately, freedom. Now, as we sign off, I invite you to continue this conversation in the comments section. Share your thoughts, your own breakthroughs, or even your doubts. And don't hesitate to reach out to others who might be struggling with the burden of repeated betrayals. Let's collectively hold up the mirror for one another and gently dust off the parts that obscure our true reflection. Thank you for watching, and remember, embracing yourself is the bravest step you can take to create the life and relationships you truly deserve.